Humans are the ultimate contradiction, aren't we? We charge through life with a sense of purpose, a belief that we're heading towards something bigger, something better. Yet at the same time, we sabotage ourselves at nearly every turn. We rush through moments we should savor, ignore the things that matter most, and constantly chase after things that bring us no closer to fulfillment. It's a maddening cycle of wanting, regretting, and never fully appreciating what's right in front of us. When we're kids, we're in a constant rush to grow up. We dream of independence, freedom, and control, thinking those are the keys to happiness. Every moment feels too slow, every boundary too restrictive. We see adulthood as the promised land, a place where we'll finally get to call the shots and live life on our terms. But the truth hits hard, doesn't it? Because once we cross that line, we realize what we've lost. The simplicity, the innocence, the magic of being young, it's gone, and we can't get it back. Suddenly, we're reminiscing about the days we once wished away, aching for the carefree existence we didn't know to cherish. But even then, we don't stop to appreciate the moment we're in. Instead of learning from that loss, we repeat the same mistake. We trade away our health, our peace, and our sanity in the pursuit of wealth, status, and success. We're told from every angle that grinding, hustling, and pushing ourselves to the limit is the only way to live a worthwhile life. So we sacrifice sleep, ignore our bodies, and bury ourselves in work. We convince ourselves that we'll take care of our health later, that the grind is temporary, that it'll all be worth it when we reach the top. But here's the irony. By the time we've chased that wealth, by the time we've burned through our best years in pursuit of something we thought would bring us happiness, we end up spending all that money just trying to repair the damage. The pills, the treatments, the surgeries, those aren't luxuries. They're the cost of neglect. And even with all the wealth in the world, some things can't be undone. You can't buy back the years you ignored your health. You can't pay to erase the toll stress and overwork took on your body. And by the time you realize this, you're left wondering if it was ever worth it. But it doesn't stop there. We're so obsessed with the future. What's next? What's ahead? What we need to achieve? That we completely miss the present. The irony is almost unbearable. We spend so much time planning, worrying, and preparing for a future that doesn't even exist yet that we let the present slip through our fingers. And what happens to those moments we overlook? They become the past, forever out of reach. Then we romanticize that past. We turn it into something bigger than it was, a golden age we wish we could return to. We tell ourselves it was better back then, simpler, easier. But the truth is it wasn't. The past only looks good because it's gone. It's a snapshot we've edited and filtered through nostalgia, ignoring the struggles and pain that came with it. And while we're stuck longing for a past that can't be relived, we're also missing out on the present, just like we did before. It's a vicious cycle, and we're the ones feeding it. And if all that weren't enough, we top it off with the biggest illusion of all. We live as though we're invincible. We act like we'll live forever, like there's an endless supply of time to do all the things we keep putting off. We tell ourselves we'll fix the broken relationships later, chase our dreams tomorrow, and make the most of life someday. But that someday never comes, because time doesn't wait. It keeps moving whether you're ready or not. And when death finally comes for us, and it will, most people aren't ready. They meet it with regret. Regret for the chances they didn't take, the words they didn't say, the risks they avoided, and the lives they never fully lived. And let's talk about death for a moment. Not just the fact of it, but the fear of it. It's the one universal truth we all share, yet it's the thing we avoid thinking about the most. It looms over us like a shadow, subtle yet ever present, shaping our decisions, our priorities, and even our identities. For most people, the fear of death isn't just about the physical act of dying. It's about the unknown, the loss of control, and the realization that everything they've built, everything they've achieved, will eventually be stripped away. But here's the thing. Fear of death doesn't protect you from it. It doesn't delay it or make it easier when the time comes. All it does is rob you of the life you have right now. It paralyzes you, keeps you from taking risks, from living boldly, from loving deeply. It whispers in your ear that you need to play it safe, stay comfortable, avoid failure at all costs, because failure feels too much like a little death of its own. And so, in trying to avoid the fear, you end up living a smaller, weaker version of the life you were meant to have. What's the alternative? It's not about pretending death doesn't exist. That's just another form of denial. The alternative is staring it down, acknowledging it, and letting it push you to live a life that's worth dying for. Think about it. If you weren't afraid of death, if you accepted it as part of the deal, what would change? You'd stop hesitating. You'd take the leap. You'd tell the people in your life exactly how much they mean to you, because you'd know there might not be another chance. You'd stop chasing things that don't matter, status, possessions, empty accolades, and start chasing the things that set your soul on fire. Fear of death is only as powerful as you let it be. If you live your life avoiding it, it'll own you. But if you use it, if you let it remind you how precious every moment is, it becomes a tool, not a torment. It pushes you to be present, to be courageous, to leave nothing on the table. Because the truth is, death isn't the enemy. The real enemy is a life unlived, a legacy left unfulfilled, a story that ends before it ever really begins. And here's something else to think about. What if your fear of death could teach you about your fear of living? Because that's what it really comes down to, doesn't it? Death scares us because it's final, because it forces us to face the question we spend our whole lives running from. Did I make it count? And if that question terrifies you, it's because deep down, you know the answer isn't what it should be. So stop running. Stop hiding. Face death for what it is. The final chapter in a book that only you can write. Make every page leading up to it so full, so rich, that by the time you reach the end, there's nothing left to fear. Live so fiercely, so unapologetically that death itself looks like a natural conclusion, a punctuation mark on a life well lived. Because in the end, that's all that matters. Not how long you live, but how much life you can pack into the time you're given. Let that fear of death, that shadow hanging over you, serve as your greatest reminder. This life, right here and now, is your one shot. Make it worth it.